more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this count of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. Good evening, everyone. My name is Justin Whitsett. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. I've been sober since February 23rd of 2017. Welcome to the regular Thursday night Big Book study meeting of the primary purpose group of Alcoholics Anonymous. Before we get rolling here for a second, I think Myers has got just a real quick announcement before we jump in. Myers, you want to go ahead?
You bet. Thank you, guys. I've been approached a couple of times this last week about 12-step opportunities for some folks. One of them is one for a women's transitional living place called Samaritan House in Fort Worth. It's primarily, it's being chaired by some OA gals and some Al-Anon gals. But they said that the people that they're talking to, they really dig the 12-step kind of influence. And so she reached out to us to see if we had any gals that could help them with that stuff. It's a Zoom deal, but you can call me. I left my number on the chat. The other one, there's a guy named Dave Davis that goes to our group that I've just busted his anonymity all over the place, and he'll kill me later. But they're doing a deal out at Homeward Bound again in person. So this is a men's only deal on Wednesday night, I believe is what it is. They're just having a hard time covering the dates. They got a couple of guys, but they seem to be kind of scattered, and you know how that works out for us sometimes. Like if we don't make the commitment, they'll eventually say, go away. And we've got a history of being there no matter what. And so we want to be able to do that. So if you've got a little time, call me and I'll put you in touch. We'll connect you with these folks, and we'll see if we can help them. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Myers. All right. This is an open meeting, and all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected, and we ask that you protect ours. While this is an open meeting, membership in Alcoholics Anonymous and this group is limited to those who have a serious drinking problem and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. There are a number of other fellowships that deal with problems other than alcoholism, and we will be happy to help you find one that will meet your needs. The primary purpose group observes the CHIP system, and so we'd like to recognize those who have reached certain milestones in their pursuit of sobriety. So if you'll use the raise hand button to be recognized, and we'll call on you as we go through these periods of recognition. So is there anyone here celebrating 1 month?
Okay, no hands.
All right, how about 2 months?
No hands.
And 3 months?
No threes.
All right, let's try 6. Any 6 months?
No 6 months.
All right, how about 9?
Come on, 9.
All right, let's see if we're going for a sweep here. Anyone celebrating an annual birthday? Oh, we got somebody waving here. Is it Mary? You wanna unmute yourself?
Hi, I'm Mary. I'm an alcoholic. I'm 90 days. I missed that.
All right. Congratulations. That's awesome. So for those of you who might be kind of newer to Zoom, if you go into the participants function, there's a little raise hand feature. That way my sidekick there helps me see if somebody's raising their hand and wants to speak. I'll overlook you otherwise. So that helps Desiree. We've got somebody that's raised their hand there. That Patricia looks like.
Yeah, I tried to like raise my hand on screen for 2 months and like do like a celebratory thing on the thing. I didn't know how to raise my hand in the chat. But yeah, 2 months.
Awesome.
2 months. Excellent. All right. Congratulations. That's fantastic.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Deborah. And let's keep going here. The most important piece of metal that we will ever possess is a desire chip. Taking this chip indicates a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Is there anyone here who wants to begin their journey to sobriety tonight?
We do not have any hands.
All right. Thank you. Some of you are looking for a sponsor, so if you've taken our steps, have been blessed with a spiritual awakening, and have the time and willingness to work with others, please add your name and contact information to the chat, either before or now. It's going to be after the meeting because we close that down for the meeting. And then those of you who are, if you're looking for guidance, we invite you to stay online after the meeting, and we'll have some of our members available to help you out. Just as a reminder, if you don't have your big book handy, now's the time to grab it. We will be going through it line by line, so you're going to want to have that with you. However, before we begin the big book, our study of the big book, we're going to review Tradition 10, and I've asked Sean Conway to cover that for us tonight.
All right, how's it going, everyone? Tradition 10, if you've got a 4th edition, it's on page 565. We're going to go over the long form first, and then we'll flip back and go over the short form. So Tradition 10, AA experience has taught us that no AA group or member should ever, in such a way to implicate AA, express any opinion on outside controversial issues, particularly those of politics, alcohol reform, or sectarian religion. The Alcoholics Anonymous groups oppose no one. Concerning such matters, they can express no views whatever. So we flip back a page to 562. The short form is Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues. Hence, the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. So just as the steps are laid out for the individual, the traditions are laid out for the safety and the flourishing or the staying power of a group. At the end of the day, guys, I mean, our goal and our job is to keep the doors open for the newcomer to come find a solution. And man, that can be a lot more difficult than you would think. I mean, we are a bunch of people with a lot of different opinions, from different backgrounds, from different raisings, whatever. And it's easy to be that deer in headlights for the newcomer to say, man, I don't know if this is for me. And this tradition is set up solely for that point. You know, back in the day, the group, the Washingtonians, who had hundreds of thousands of success stories, blew up so big that they really started getting involved with these, especially the three that they're talking about, you know, abolition, political opinions, the alcohol reform movement, things like that. And before you knew it, the group disappeared. They were gone. And it's not hard to see if you think about how quickly and how easily and how divisive basic opinion can be. So this job, this goal is so that, man, our doors are open so that anyone who wishes to find some freedom from this deal can come in and feel welcome. And this doesn't, I mean, yes, I don't want to put the AA name out there in a political ad or anything like that, because that's going to harm AA as a whole. But this goes as far as, man, when I'm sitting around hanging out before the meeting or hanging out in the meeting and things like that, I've got to watch what I'm talking about, because I don't know where the other person is standing. And at the end of the day, my job and our job as members of Alcoholics Anonymous are to keep those doors open to offer that solution. And we don't want to hinder that at all. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Sean. All right, now for our meeting in here, we've elected to use the Big Book study guide prepared by members of our group to help us stay focused on the study of the Big Book. There are one or more questions for virtually every sentence in the basic text. The chairperson will read a question and call upon a member to read the related sentence. This is not a discussion meeting, folks, so what we want to do is keep our comments to the questions that we're actually studying. We want to make sure we're not using our discussion of what we're studying as kind of a launching pad to go off into some personal stories. So we want to stick to the text that we're studying tonight. Much appreciated. Finally, it is well for all of us to remember the words of Bill W., one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol through the teaching and the practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group. Therefore, any comments other than those relating to your alcoholism should be reserved for another time and another place. All right, tonight we are on page 35, and Nina, if you could help us out and read that page in its entirety, and then we'll start with some questions.
Sure. From the bottom of page 34, the experiment of quitting for a period of time will be helpful, but we think we can render an even greater service to alcoholic sufferers and perhaps to the medical fraternity. So we shall describe some of the mental states that precede a relapse into drinking, for obviously this is the crux of the problem. What sort of thinking dominates an alcoholic who repeats time after time the desperate experiment of the first drink? Friends who have reasoned with him after a spree which has brought him to the point of divorce or bankruptcy are mystified when he walks directly into a saloon. Why does he? Of what is he thinking? Our first example is a friend we shall call Jim. This man has a charming wife and family. He inherited a lucrative automobile agency. He had a commendable World War record. He is a good salesman. Everybody likes him. He's an intelligent man, normal so far as we can see, except for a nervous disposition. He did no drinking until he was 35. In a few years, he had become so violent when intoxicated that he had to be committed. On leaving the asylum, he came into contact with us. We told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answer we had found. He made a beginning. His family was reassembled, and he began to work as a salesman for the business he had lost through drinking. All went well for a time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. To his consternation, he found himself drunk half a dozen times in rapid succession. On each of these occasions, we worked with him, reviewing carefully what had happened. He agreed he was a real alcoholic and in a serious condition. He knew he faced another trip to the asylum if he kept on. Moreover, he would lose his family for whom he had a deep affection.
Awesome, thank you. All right, we are starting at the first full paragraph, question 3. And the question is, what is the question at this point?
Why does he?
Actually, we're at what sort of thinking, I think. Yeah, what sort of think that paragraph is? Yeah.
Got it. What sort of thinking dominates an alcoholic who repeats time after time the desperate experiment of the first drink?
Perfect. And the comment in the study guide says, refer to the first paragraph on page 30 for the answer. The idea that somehow, someday. And question 4, in what state are the alcoholic's friends and why? And it's the rest of the paragraph.
Friends who have reasoned with him after a spree which has brought him to the point of divorce or bankruptcy are mystified when he walks directly into a saloon. Why does he? Of what is he thinking?
Perfect. And the comment in the study guide is, for answers to the why and what, again, refer to the first paragraph on page 30. Same as question 3. As we study Jim's story, look for similarities between him and you. And Nina, if you could help us out with that next paragraph too. We're going to actually skip the first sentence. So question 5, what kind of family did Jim have?
This man has a charming wife and family.
What had he inherited?
He inherited a lucrative automobile agency.
Question 7, how was his war record?
He had a commendable World War record.
Was he good at his profession?
He is a good salesman.
And question 9, was he a likable cuss?
Everybody likes him.
All right, and we got a 3-parter here. Question 10A, was he a dummy?
He is an intelligent man.
And the B part, was he normal or abnormal?
Normal so far as we can see.
And the C part, except for what?
Except for a nervous disposition.
All right, handle that like a pro. All right, question 13. Is that right? Yep. Question 13. When did he start drinking?
He did no drinking until he was 35.
And 14. Did it take him very long to get into trouble with his drinking?
In a few years, he became so violent when intoxicated that he had to be committed.
And question 15. What happened to him when he left the mental institution?
On leaving the asylum, he came into contact with us.
All right, let's open that up if somebody wants to catch us up where we are in the book. And any comments related to those first 2 paragraphs would be great. And once again, we'll use the raise hand function.
Okay, we have Richard Weiner. Unmute
Hey,
yourself.
Richard.
I got it. Thank you. Richard, alcoholic. Well, I see that I love Jim, but you know, I've been sober 39 years. I've never seen anybody struck drunk. It's always something that's preceding it. They're either doing something they should not be doing or not doing something they should be doing. And I'm just assuming that he has a resentment. I can't even imagine what it would be like to go to work for a company as a salesman that I used to own. The other thing, that he had failed to enlarge his spiritual life, which if you go back to page 14, it really talks about that. People fail to enlarge their spiritual life. But I would think that, that would be, I don't know that I could even handle that sober, having to go back as a salesman for a company I used to own. All right, that's it for now.
Okay, Rick Beal, please.
Just a little bit of background on Jim. This is Jim Burwell. He's his story was in the first section, the pioneering section of the first one, or the stories when they first came out in the big book. But Jim is also part of the group, the agnostic atheist group that helped us have, when you see in traditions 3 and 11, or steps 3 and 11, God as we understood him. They're part of that movement that had it written that way to be all-inclusive to people who didn't necessarily believe like the rest of us have come to believe. So Jim is important in the early history of AA, and we're going to study up a little bit more about him and his relapses. And he also was the owner of Honor Dealers that Bill and some of the guys worked for back when AA was still in New Jersey. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, Barbara. Unmute yourself.
So I'm going to hop back to 34 here for a second, because this is describing specifically the mental states that come before our relapse. And I know we talked yesterday or Tuesday just a little bit before the meeting about what's going on. Here's, from horse's mouth, as they say, right out the big book. This is specifically talking about a nervous disposition, where we just read out of, and the only answer is the answer that we found, a spiritual life. So, you go back to the bottom of 34, and there it is, leading up to, hey, if you're having these little mental states, you're heading for a relapse. And that's exactly what Jim is described as, is that, they
Thanks, Barbara. So you're a little tough to hear, but I think we got the gist of what you're saying, so appreciate that. And what, page 35 is getting into with Jim's story, as it says in that paragraph is, what goes on in the mind of an alcoholic is what we're in the middle of discussing here prior to the first drink, right? The crux of the problem, as it's presented on page 23, and what that problem is on page 30, as the study guide alluded to, and we've just come off the example of the man of 30, and it started to refer to this mental aspect of the disease. It talks about it on page 33 is that peculiar mental twist, and it's going to further examine that through Jim's story, which is a pretty good example. So we'll get into this. All right. Let's see here. Ryan, if you could help us out, answer some questions here.
Yes, sir.
It's that bottom paragraph of that page. Question 16. What two things did the AAs tell him?
We told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answer we had found.
And 17. What did he do?
He made a beginning.
Comment in the study guide. What could we assume from this statement to make a beginning? And question 18. What happened as a result of that effort?
His family was reassembled, and he began to work as a salesman for the business he had lost through drinking.
Question 19, what did he not do?
All went well for a time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life.
Comment in the study guide, how do we develop our spiritual life in Alcoholics Anonymous? And question 20, how many times did he wind up drunk?
To his consternation, he found himself drunk half dozen times in rapid succession.
Excellent. And we have a two-parter here, so be on your toes. 21A, how many times did the recovered alcoholics go see him?
On each of these occasions, we worked with him.
And the comment in the study guide says, he got drunk 6 times. They 12-stepped him 6 times. Our primary purpose? And 21B, what did the AAs do?
Sorry, I lost my place there. Each of the occasions we were reviewing carefully what had happened.
Perfect. All right. And then question 23, on what did he agree with the AAs?
He agreed he was a real alcoholic and in serious condition.
And 24, what did he know would happen if he drank again?
He knew he faced another trip to the asylum if he kept on.
And 25, even more important, what else did he know would happen?
Moreover, he would lose his family, for whom he had deep affection.
Comment in the study guide says, if you gave any thought to what was at risk if you drank, did it keep you from taking the first drink? All right, let's open that up for comments if there are any.
Okay, let's start with Mac Montgomery.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. Mac, alcoholic. And, I love this story because, and there's a lot there that is not really in the book because, this guy was popping up at all the meetings saying, I don't believe in God. And they were ready to throw him out. So he got sober originally in January of 38. And he came back in June of 38 and was around when Bill was writing the book and was rooming with Hank Parkhurst during this time. And he ganged up with Hank, as Myers said, to get Bill to add the words as we understood him. But the other thing that's important about his story, even though it's not really here, is that he's also responsible for the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, because they had to have he was so obnoxious that they had a group conscience as to whether or not to let him in. So when it says in here that he relapsed 6 times and that they continually tried to work with him, in spite of that, he was really a tough nut, and yet he went on to found AA in Philadelphia and then came to California and was instrumental in I think in the 40s in starting AA down, or getting AA really rolling in San Diego. He's also noted as one of the most unreliable AA historians because of there are a lot of his talks which are out there. There's one from I think 1957, the recorded in Sacramento, where he talks about how nobody was staying sober and how big a part he was of getting the book going, because he definitely was there for a short time. So there you have the rest of the story.
Thank you, Mac. All right, who we got queued up?
We got Mike Mitchell.
So I love this part of the first of the paragraph. It says, we told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answers we had found. We hear a lot in AA that all I have is my experience, strength, and hope. And the fact is that we better be coming with more than just our experience, strength, and hope. I mean, we need to be armed with the facts about ourselves and this clear-cut idea of that I know what alcoholism is and what alcoholism isn't. Without presenting the physical component that the alcoholic's body reacts differently than normal people or non-alcoholic people to alcohol, my story is kind of incomplete. And what they're doing here and for the next few pages and really hammering for this whole paragraph is this mental inability to stay away from it no matter what. In Fred's story, they're going to talk about they heap piles of evidence that mentally he was not going to be able to overcome this by thinking through the drink. 24 talks about that we're unable at certain times to bring in our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation. Jim knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew it. He was going to get loaded. He was going to lose the family. He was going to lose everything. But what? He drank again. It's not that I can't remember what happened. It's just that it doesn't have the strength to do this. This isn't a willpower issue. This is a mental illness problem that, left to my own devices, I am guaranteed to drink again. Thanks.
Okay, we have two more, Justin. We got Nina.
Yep.
So, just to add on to what Mike was saying, the line in this paragraph that he failed to enlarge his spiritual life, and the way that they set the stage for this is that Jim was a reputable guy. He had a great family. He had a great life. It's not about the circumstances that make us an alcoholic, and it's not about the consequences that are going to keep us sober, not keep us sober. He didn't stay sober not because he had this crappy job where he was working for his old boss, where he used to own a company. He didn't stay sober because he failed to enlarge his spiritual life, and that's in Bill's story. It tells us on 15 that was through work and self-sacrifice for others. And this book goes on and explains more about what that looks like specifically in step 12, working one-on-one with another alcoholic. But I just wanted to say that. Thanks.
Okay, we
Got
have
one more.
Myers to close the page.
Well, we're gonna hey y'all, we're gonna close it because I had two exciting things to talk about, and Mike shared it on one of them and Nina shared the other one, so I'm screwed. Thank y'all.
All right, good deal. All right, Bonnie, do you mind doing some reading for us? If you'll read page 36 in its entirety, appreciate it.
Sure. Yet he got drunk again. We asked him to tell us exactly how it happened. This is his story. I came to work on Tuesday morning. I remember I felt irritated that I had to be the salesman for a concern I once owned. I had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious. Then I decided to drive into the country and see one of my prospects for a car. On the way, I felt hungry, so I stopped at a roadside place where they have a bar. I had no intention of drinking. I just thought I would get a sandwich. I also had the notion that I might find a customer for a car at this place, which was familiar, for I had been going to it for years. I had eaten there many times during the months I was sober. I sat down at a table and ordered a sandwich and a glass of milk. Still no thought of drinking. I ordered another sandwich and decided to have another glass of milk. Suddenly, the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach. I ordered a whiskey and I poured it into the milk. I vaguely sensed that I was not being any too smart, but felt assured I was taking the whiskey as I was taking the whiskey on a full stomach. The experiment went so well that I ordered another whiskey and poured it into more milk. That didn't seem to bother me, so I tried another. Thus started one more journey to the asylum for Jim. Here was the threat of commitment, the loss of family and position, to say nothing of that intense mental and physical suffering which drinking always caused him. He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic, yet all reasons for not drinking were easily pushed aside in favor of the foolish idea that he could take whiskey if only he mixed it with milk.
Awesome. All right, let's jump back up to the top of page 36 with question 1. Yet he did what?
Yet he got drunk again.
Question 2, what did the AA do?
He asked him to tell us exactly how it happened.
And question 3, how was Jim on Tuesday morning?
This is his story. I came into work on Tuesday morning. I remember I felt irritated that I...
Yeah, that's good. You were getting into the next question. That's all right. Comment in the study guide says, would you wonder where he was on Monday morning? A lot of alcoholics are bad about Mondays. All right, now it's question 4. What was the source of his irritation?
I remember I felt irritated that I had to be a salesman for a concern I once owned.
And question 5, did he speak to his boss?
I had a few words with the boss, but nothing serious.
And what did he decide to do?
Then I decided to drive into the country and see one of my prospects for a car.
All right, and this next one's a two-parter. So 7A is, along the way, what happened?
On the way, I felt hungry.
So what did he do?
So I stopped at a roadside place where they have a bar.
And question 9, did he stop for a drink?
I had no intention of drinking.
All right, and so comment in the study guide, this I think is a good comment. It says that there's a temptation to believe he was setting himself up to drink. That's not so. Question 10, what did he think he would do?
I just thought I would get a sandwich.
Yeah, and this next one is another two-parter. 11A, what else did he hope he might find?
I also had the notion that I might find a customer for a car at this place.
And the comment in the study guide says, in today's economy, it is doubtful a car salesman would go looking for a prospective car buyer, but this was during the Great Depression. People were very fortunate to have any type of job, and the majority were unemployed. Bill was one of those who didn't have a source of income except what Lois earned. Dr. Bob's practice was all but dead. Had it been a period of prosperity, Alcoholics Anonymous would not have been born. And 11B, was this place unfamiliar to him?
Which was familiar, for I had been going to it for years.
And 13, was he setting himself up for a slip by stopping there?
I had eaten there many times during the months I was sober.
What did he do after he sat down?
I sat down at a table and ordered a sandwich and a glass of milk.
Had the thought of drinking crossed his mind?
Still no thought of drinking.
And 16, he apparently was still hungry, so what did he do?
I ordered another sandwich and decided to have another glass of milk.
All right, let's get you to take us through this next paragraph and then we'll open it up. Question 17, what insane thought suddenly crossed his mind?
Suddenly, the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach.
Question 18, did he act sanely on the insane thought?
I ordered a whiskey and poured it into the milk.
All right, and the note says that's one. And 19, we've got another two-parter here, Bonnie. What did he sense?
I vaguely sensed that I was not being any too smart.
And the B part, what thought preceded his decision to take the first drink?
But felt reassured as I was taking the whiskey on a full stomach.
Question 21, so what did he do?
The experiment went so well that I ordered another whiskey and poured it into more milk.
And the note says that's two. And question 22, then what did he do?
That didn't seem to bother me, so I tried another.
And the note says that's number 3. Comment states, did these 3 drinks produce an allergic reaction, the craving for more drinks that an alcohol has to alcohol? Let's find out. Well, before we find out, let's open that up for any comments that anyone might have.
Okay, Bill J. from Corona.
Rock on, you guys. I'm Phil, I'm an alcoholic. Both of those are provable on paper. There's decisions, there's irritation, there's hunger, but none of that did it. Like, none of that was actually the piece. Sat down at a table, still no thought of drinking, good to go, man. How many times have I ordered a burger and a Coke and it's not a problem? But then you gotta watch out for suddenly. Like, oh, dang it, not suddenly. Suddenly, the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put whiskey and put an ounce of whiskey into my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach. Okay, so this is the part where I've got it written in the margin. This is the insanity, right? The idea that without the knowledge that I have an allergic reaction, right? So there's some sort of compulsion that says, you know what I need to do? Because he could have had a sandwich and a glass of milk. He could have had 2 sandwiches. You could have 4 sandwiches and glasses of milk with each one of them. But what do I do? I decide, you know what would be great? Now I'm totally full. I'm going to go ahead and pour an ounce of whiskey in here. Like, there's no part of me that sounds like that's a great idea. Not like right now. Like, not even when I was drinking. Like, putting whiskey into milk sounds like a terrible idea. Like a whiskey milkshake? Like whiskey oatmeal? Like, no, this is a terrible idea. So clearly I've got it written in the margins here. It's his justifications and motivations are slipping. He's slipping over the edge, right? And they give us a lot of reasons why that might be. And I do have, thank you for mentioning it, I do have Where is Monday in my notes, and there's resentment, but this one, I might find a customer. Well, that's ambition again, right? That's straight up ambition. You go to ambition, and then it's like, well, all of a sudden I'm back in charge. I'm back in charge when I got ambition. I'm in charge. I got a glass of milk. I got a sandwich. I'm good. Boom. 2. Boom. Why all of a sudden does he all of a sudden have a 3rd whiskey? I know exactly. He triggered the physical allergy. It's like, I have no idea why he did the first one, but my understanding from the stories and from the history that I understand, and it's slightly different than what was shared earlier, is that this is Harlan Spencer, who, according to Dr. Bob, was somebody he sponsored and was in and out for a long time, starting in April of 37. And so this is no different for me. How in the world is it possible that in April of 37, a guy tells my story? I get suddenly, right? Like, all of a second, it seems, just right now, seems like a great idea. That is the suddenly. That's the hard part to explain when I'm talking to a new guy or I'm talking to somebody else. I'm Phil, I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Phil. All right.
Okay, Robin, read.
Okay, so this is that strange mental blank spot that precedes the first drink. There doesn't have to be any particular reason. going on in Jim's life for this to happen. He just simply has not enlarged his spiritual life, and so he, there doesn't have to be any reason at all other than there's nothing that's stopping this from happening. Suddenly happens, and all of a sudden, something really stupid sounds like a good idea. And for any one of us who is a chronic alcoholic, this may have happened. It's happened to me. It may have happened to any one of you, where all of a sudden the stupidest thing on the face of the planet sounds like a good idea, and we don't think through the drink. We can't think through the drink. It just suddenly thought comes into my mind, and I act on it. And that's what's happening here. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff B. from Albuquerque, please.
Hi, I'm Jeff. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Thanks for allowing me to share. I love this part here. I love the fact that in the previous page, it's describing the self-knowledge, and the first line of this page is, what did it avail me? Nothing. I got drunk again. So that self-knowledge does mean nothing. And I like the little part in here, I call it the inception of the resentment idea. They're planting the idea that the resentment might be a problem. I was unhappy about working for a concern that I once owned. That wreaks resentment to me, and I think they're teaching me that that's important. They're planting that seed where they probably planted it many times before. And then what was just touched on, this idea of I had no desire to drink. I don't think they're telling me in this reading that he went in that bar with a desire to drink. Those questions drive toward that. And I look at it as the conscious versus the unconscious desire. The one that scares me is the unconscious desire, that strange mental blank spot. I relate it to, I don't tell my heart to beat, yet it beats. If I don't treat my alcoholism, I'm going to drink. I don't have to have a desire to drink. It's part of my nature. I need to treat the spiritual malady. If I don't, I will. Thanks.
All right, let's take one more. We'll
Okay,
keep rolling.
Sylvester. Pleasure.
Hi. So the one part, well, two things. One's just a semi-personal note. I actually had a distant cousin who regularly drank whiskey and milk, and because they shouldn't have been drinking. Right. So that was that. When I saw this, I was like, I remember this from when I was 10, and I was first told, oh, they're alcoholic and shouldn't be drinking. Didn't know I would live half of that. So vaguely I sensed that's a key line here, because that's the intuition kicking in, or the internal God, if you will, and because he's not enlarged his spiritual life, he doesn't listen to the warning is there. The warning is there, and to say get up and go do something, and he doesn't have the ability to handle this because, well, he didn't enlarge his spiritual life, right? He didn't know what the voice sounded like, and that's.
All right, thanks, Sylvester. So, I'll just add a couple of cents, 2 cents before we move on. There's a lot of there's a tendency, like the study guide was saying, to read a lot into kind of the little preceding part of this of setting up as he's going to the cafe. And the reality is he's failed to enlarge on his spiritual life, like others have said. Whether or not he works for a business he used to own, I mean, as the study guide said, this is a time when there were very few jobs, and a person who's spiritually fit probably recognizes that's a pretty good opportunity to have a job and continue to provide for one's family. And what's going on here is, because of not being spiritually fit, regardless of the circumstances, right? That things could be perfect or things could be really terrible. The nature of the mental part of this disease is that without having a spiritual defense, without a defense against the first drink, that the mind of an alcoholic has both a sane and insane idea, perhaps, and it's the insane idea that's going to win out, and that's what we're going to see play out in the next page. So let's keep rolling. Let's see, Rick, if you can help us out, we'll pick up at the very last paragraph on that page on 36. Question 23. Where did those 3 drinks take him?
Thus started one more journey to the asylum for Jim.
And this next one's a 2-parter, 24A. What was placed at risk by taking those 3 drinks?
Here was the threat of commitment, the loss of family position, family and position.
And the B part, yep. And the B part is, what else was he to experience as the result of this spree?
To say nothing of that intense mental and physical suffering which drinking always caused him.
And question 26, did he know he was an alcoholic?
He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic.
And 27, what happened to all the reasons he had for not taking the first drink?
Yet all reasons for not drinking were easily pushed aside in favor of the foolish idea that he could take whiskey if only he mixed it with milk.
All right, let's open that up for any comments real quick before we move on to the next page.
Okay, let's start with Dean.
Hi, I'm Dean Dodge from San Francisco, and I gotta go back to page 36. Middle of the page, suddenly the thought crossed my mind that if I were to put an ounce of whiskey in my milk, it couldn't hurt me on a full stomach. It's got nothing to do with milk. It could be 7-Up or Coca-Cola. The insanity that's occurring right now is that he thinks he can have an ounce. He thinks he can have control and enjoy an ounce. And so he's going to justify it somehow by mixing it with something. It'll be okay with him. But the true insanity, he's gone past it, and he no longer has a chance. And what happens is, we just finished reading in the paragraph, it's all about the foolish idea, but he doesn't respond to reason. And that's our true alcoholic insanity. We don't respond to reason. Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
Dean.
you. Okay, Ben from Montreal. Unmute yourself.
Did you say Ben?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't understand. I'm Ben, I'm a recovering alcoholic. My English is not very good, but I'm not gonna be, it's not gonna be long. It's just one thing that struck me is you see it coming, the insanity when it's written in the book, but it's happening so fast, so much time. I was just, like Bill said, beating my head on the bar and say, next time I'm gonna manage. I don't see how fast it is. I can be on my guard, but it's always winning. So that's just what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
Thanks,
Steve
Ben.
from Rochester.
Hello, everybody. Steve, alcoholic. I just wanted to kick back to maybe the first paragraph that it kind of folds into the bottom page, and I'm just puzzled. I'm perplexed. And what was he thinking about on Monday? You know, I mean, I know for me, it's always been a premeditated act on my part. And I never realized that, you know, I was heading down that path. But then, you know, at the bottom here, he went back to the asylum again, and it just brought him back there. And he had no reason, he had no rhyme or reason why he did it. And that is the powerful of alcoholism. I mean, I'm powerless, and it just it covers me and takes over, and I just cannot, you know, for the life of me, but by God's grace, we have the solution. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve. All right, Rick, let's keep moving here. Rick, if you'll read page 37 in its entirety.
Whatever the precise definition of the word may be, we call this plain insanity. How can such a lack of proportion of the ability to think straight be called anything else? You may think this is an extreme case. To us, it is not far-fetched, for this kind of thinking has been characteristic of every single one of us. We have sometimes reflected more than Jim did upon the consequences, but there was always the curious mental phenomenon that parallel with our sound reasoning where inevitably ran some insanely trivial excuse for taking the first drink. Our sound reasoning failed to hold us in check. The insane idea won out. Next day, we would ask ourselves in all earnestness and sincerity how it could have happened. In some circumstances, we have gone out deliberately to get drunk, feeling ourselves justified by nervousness, anger, worry, depression, jealousy, or the like. But even in this type of beginning, we are obliged to admit that our justification for a spree was insanely insufficient in the light of what always happened. We now see that when we began to drink deliberately instead of casually, there was little serious or effective thought during the period of premeditation of what the terrific consequences might be. Our behavior is as absurd and incomprehensible with respect to the first drink as that of an individual with a passion, say, for jaywalking. He gets a thrill out of skipping in front of fast-moving vehicles. He enjoys himself for a few years in spite of friendly warnings. Up to this point, you would label him as a foolish chap having queer ideas of fun.
Perfect. All right, let's jump back up to the top of the page. Question 1. What would we or anyone else call this action?
Whatever the precise definition of the word may be, we call this plain insanity.
And the comment on the study guide says, again, we see the true insanity of chronic alcoholism, which makes it impossible for the real alcoholic to manage their most fervent desire to never take another drink. The unmanageability of chronic alcoholism. Question 2, what other term would be appropriate?
How can such a lack of proportion of the ability to think straight be called anything else?
All right, let's do the next paragraph real quick. Question 3, is this kind of thing far-fetched to us? And it's 2 sentences.
You may think this is an extreme case. To us, it is not far-fetched, for this kind of thinking has been characteristic of every single one of us.
And have some of us given more thought to the consequences than Jim did?
We have sometimes reflected more than Jim did upon the consequences.
And this next one's a 2-parter, 5A. What is curious about the alcoholic's thinking?
But there was always the curious mental phenomenon that parallel with our sound reasoning there inevitably ran some. Okay.
That's good. Yeah, what overrode our sound reasoning?
There inevitably ran some insanely trivial excuse for taking the first drink.
Perfect. 7, what sound reasoning will keep us from taking the first drink?
Our sound reasoning failed to hold us in check.
And question 8, what always wins out?
The insane idea won out.
And one more, question 9, what do we then earnestly and sincerely ask ourselves?
Next day, we would ask ourselves in all earnestness and sincerity how it could have happened.
Excellent. All right. Yeah. And you know, this is what I was talking about. We'll open this up for comments. Is we got Jim had these parallel thoughts, as it says on 36, where he says, I vaguely sensed I wasn't being any too smart. And then that insane idea feeling reassured that he's taking whiskey on a full stomach and he's going to be okay. Those are those parallel thoughts. And the one is a sane idea that it's not a smart thing to do. And the other one's an insane idea that it's okay with the full stomach. And much like my experience, and I think of many chronic alcoholics that are in this meeting, you know, that insane idea wins out. It's not, as it says, Mike was talking about on page 24, it's not that I can't recall the potential consequences. It's that they don't hold any weight against the insane idea that somehow this is going to be different, or that it's okay, or, you know, whatever the thought may be, or as it talks about in another part of the book, or I don't think at all, and it's just there's a blank spot. All right, do we have any comments? We got a few minutes. We'll take a few quick ones.
Yes, Ramona. Arthur?
I am Mona. I'm an alcoholic. That question, that last question, it says that we asked how it could have happened again. And for me, that's answered in question number 26 on the previous page. He had much knowledge about himself as an alcoholic. I was told that the longest distance that I had to travel in recovery was from my head to my heart. And if I don't get what I have, what I know into my heart, I'm going to keep that spiritual malady and I'm not going to grow. And so that's what I get out of this. He did not travel from his head to his heart.
All right, we got one more.
Okay, David R. from South Carolina.
Hi, I'm David. I'm an alcoholic. I really appreciate this meeting. I was always told it was a bully thought, an idea that overcomes any other idea and pushes that aside to introduce the insane idea. I had a wonderful experience with this where I was 90 days sober, going to a lot of meetings, doing a lot of things active in AA. And I walked into I was pumping gas in a gas station, and I walked into the gas station right up to the beer. I didn't take the drink, but my wife was standing there. She was scared as hell. What the hell are you doing? And it scared the heck out of me, but I came to realize I was on shady ground. But thank you.
Thanks, David. All right, guys, I wish we had more time for more comments, but we're up against it here, so if you'll bear with me for the closing. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Big Book, page 164. It is the practice of the Primary Purpose Group to offer a desired chip to anyone wishing to begin their journey to sobriety. Taking this chip indicates a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Does anyone want to begin their journey tonight? Anybody change their mind from the beginning? Raise your hand.
Nobody changed their mind.
All right. Our seventh tradition states that each group ought to be self-supporting through their own contributions. If this is your first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, we ask that you be our guest. We are glad that you're here and hope you will come back and be a part of our lives. If you would like to make a contribution to the group, you can do so via Cash App. This is a free private app so that the only people who are aware of your contribution are you and the steering committee. Our Cash App username is $PPGAA Dallas. And I think someone will probably put that in the chat. I see it there. And here's some announcements. Our regularly scheduled in-person meetings have been temporarily suspended due to coronavirus. For the month of September, we will remain meeting virtually via Zoom, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 7:30 p.m. You are welcome to log in as early as 7 p.m. to talk to fellow attendees. If you haven't been receiving our emails and would like to, get with either your sponsor or a steering committee member and let them know that you would like to be added to the email list. Currently, Our meetings are Tuesday Big Book Study, Thursday Big Book Study, and Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom, Step Speaker. The second Thursday of the month will be a foundation meeting, and this month was Nina Herndon. Let's give her a hand. We'll be announcing this next week who's our October speaker. If you have any ideas or suggestions that might make our group more effective, please give them to Hannah Saccone, Chris Nair, Melissa Schrenke, Deborah Ripito, Lee Tidwell, or Dave Freeman. Our Saturday night step speaker for the month of September is Misty Monk. So she's got, I think, one more Saturday night. So let's join us on Saturday night for that. And birthday night is being postponed until we can celebrate in person. Please visit our website at www.ppgaadallas.org. If your main problem is drugs or narcotics, CA, BAA, HA, or one of other several fellowships is where you'll find your solution. But everyone is welcome to join our open meetings. We invite you to study with us. We recover by the steps we take, not the meetings we make. Let's close with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever.